Yo, did we just see 2019 Usman again? Because I swear, that performance against Buckley felt like a time machine. Like, bro, this dude hasn't won a fight since 2021 when he beat Kobe Covington. That was like 3 years ago without a dub, okay? People were saying that he was done, saying the body was cooked, the knees were gone. Hell, even I said that. But nah, Usman pulled up to UFC Atlanta and reminded everyone exactly who he is. And let's not downplay Buckley either, okay? The man was on a heater coming off a doctor stoppage win over Kobe Covington, riding a 6-fight win streak. He's got the power, explosiveness, all that. But Usman, he shut that all down. Classic Kamaru, man. He didn't just win, he controlled the fight, took him down early, smothered him, draining the clock. That top pressure, still nasty, still heavy, still frustrating for anyone who can't get back on their feet, okay? And what really stood out to me was how calm and composed Usman looked. That's high-level fight IQ. He didn't chase the finish, didn't take dumb risks. He fought like a guy who's been there, done that, and knows exactly what it takes to win in a 25-minute fight. Cardio was on point. Game plan locked in. Every round had a purpose. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't too violent, it wasn't surgical, it was smothering, it was vintage Marty from Nebraska, just grinding his opponent down, and he was making him question his whole approach. That's what greatness looks like, and to do that at the age of 38 years old is crazy, especially after back-to-back losses and a long layoff. Man, the dude is special. Now, with all that being said, I want to switch it up a little bit. You saw the thumbnail. You know what this is. Yeah, Usman looked sharp against Buckley. Yeah, he exposed the wrestling gap in that fight. But what I really want to talk about is the bigger picture. Can Kamaru Usman become a welterweight champion once again? Because here's the deal, man. The division just had a major shakeup, okay? Jack Della Maddalena is the champ now after beating Belal. Leon got submitted by Brady. The whole thing is wide open. There's no longer a reigning king like there used to be when Usman was running it. Now it's chaos. And chaos, that's the perfect time for a guy like Usman to sneak back in my opinion. So, with all that being said, I think it's only right we talk about Usman versus Jack Della Maddalena next. Yeah, I said it. Let's stop dancing around and start really looking at these type of matchups, okay? Because listen, man, if Usman is one win away from another title shot and JDM is holding that gold, that fight, we gotta talk about it. Now, stylistically, this one is a banger. You've got JDM, the new king at the welterweight division, you know? Young, sharp, high volume striker with clean shot selections and serious power. The dude's output is crazy. Over 6 significant strikes per minute, super composed, and he just beat Belal Muhammad clean. That's no small feat. His takedown defense is improving, and he's clearly studying the game. He came into that title fight with a strategy built to stuff the grappling. That tells me he's not just a brawler, he's a student, okay? But then you look across from him, and there's Kamaru Usman, the former king, the nightmare. And let me tell you something, man, that dude's wrestling hasn't gone away anywhere. What he did to Buckley was vintage. Takedown, control, pace, and not just a panic shot either. It was relentless top pressure. That smothering style where you can't breathe, you can't strike, you can't reset. It's exhausting just watching it. Now, if we're going to be real, there's a very strong case that Jack Della Maddalena beats Kamaru Usman. And I'm not saying that because he's the younger guy or he's the champ. I'm saying that because of what we saw against Belal Muhammad. Belal is a high volume, pressure heavy wrestler. Very similar in approach to what Usman does. And JDM neutralized him. Like completely, stuffed the takedowns, circled out, stayed composed, and then he just started tearing them apart with those clean boxing combinations. And that wasn't a flash knockout or a fluke, this was a full 5 round of technical dominance. He didn't just survive the wrestling, he outclassed it. And here's the thing, Belal is fresh, younger, not coming off multiple losses, he was hungry, active in the rhythm, and JDM made him look like he didn't have a plan B. So now, take that performance and ask yourself, what happens when a 38-year-old Usman, who just came off a dominant win over Joaquin Buckley, but still carries years of wear and tear from the wars with Kobe and Leon, step in against a sniper like that? That's the real question. Can he sustain the same sharpness against someone like JDM who doesn't give you time to breathe? Because that's the thing, man. JDM isn't just powerful. He's efficient. He doesn't waste shots. He doesn't gas. He walks you down and makes you think twice about every exchange. And if Usman can't get that takedown early, if he has to work harder for every entry, it's gonna drain fast. Jack's body shots, the elbows in tight, the ability to slip and counter, that's a nightmare matchup. for a guy whose entire system is built on pace and pressure. Usman's biggest strength, his ability to control, only works when he gets close. And Jack's footwork, his jab, his ability to slide off and punish you on the way out, that's what makes this dangerous. Now, I'm not saying that Usman can't win, but I'm saying if he can't dominate those early grappling exchanges, he's in for a rough night because Jack doesn't give you a second chance. He downloads your rhythm, then deletes the whole file. Now, don't get it twisted. Usman's not just some grind out wrestler, one-dimensional freaking fighter. The man can strike. People forget how far his stand-up has come. That jab he developed under Trevor Whitman, that was money. It kept guys like Kobe and Masvidal backing up, and it sets up everything like level changes, pressure, octagon control. It's not just flashy, okay? But it is effective. And against a guy like JDM, that stiff jab could actually give him some problems early. Jack's used to fighters backing up, panicking when the pressure comes, but Usman, he walks the fire to close the distance and land. He's got that straight, basic boxing that throws guys off rhythm. And if he can pop that jab and back it up with cage pressure, he can slow Jack's flow just enough to make the grappling exchanges easier to set up. But here's the thing, man. Usman's boxing, while improved, still has holes. He's never been much of a fluent striker. Everything is tight and mechanical. His head stays on the center line a lot. He doesn't move well in reverse. He doesn't have slick counters or angles to fall back on. And if you go back and watch that second Leon Edwards fight, you could see that Leon started mixing the feints and kicks. Usman started stalling. He didn't have the adaptability. He just shells up or he just forces up entries. And if you go back and watch this third Leon Edwards fight, you can see once Leon started mixing up feints and kicks, Usman started stalling. He didn't have the adaptability. He just shelled up or forced entries. And that's where JDM can feast, okay? Jack is surgical. He'll touch your body, move your guard, and slip that jab down the middle over and over. He's not going to get overwhelmed by Usman's jab, okay? Like, if anything, he'll get used to the timing of his shots and then punish the resets. So yeah, Usman can have success on the feet, especially early with the jab and pressure. But if it turns into a pure boxing match, the advantage is JDM in my opinion, because while Usman's solid, Jack's built for the striking exchanges, okay? And if Usman can't shift gears mid-fight, that's where it gets dangerous. So yeah, in my opinion, Usman would lose to Jack Della Maddalena. I think the matchup's just rough at this point in his career, but let's pivot to something even more interesting. Let's say he takes the belt and becomes the welterweight champion, okay? Now you're looking at a potential super fight between Islam versus Usman, and that's where things can get real fun, okay? Because let's just say how it is. You got two of the most dominant grapplers of their generation. Two guys who have made their career out of taking elite fighters, neutralizing them, and breaking them down. The way they do it, that's where it gets fascinating. Usman is physically bigger, no questions about it. He has a full-size welterweight with that thick frame, that heavy clinch control, and that top game that feels like quicksand. He's so used to bullying people with pressure, making them fold under pressure, and he showed that even when his back is against the wall, he can still out-hustle guys like Kobe Covington or Buckley and stay composed. But Islam's a technician. He's not bullying anybody. He's outsmarting you. He's setting traps, changing levels, creating scrambles, and flowing through position like it's second nature. You shoot on him, he reverses it, you clinch him, he trips you off balance before you even blink. And that's why I think Islam would win this fight. Not because of the grappling, because honestly, I think those grappling exchanges might cancel each other out. These are two guys who know what to expect. Usman's not going to get ragdoll, and Islam's not going to be controlled for long stretches either. They'll probably neutralize a lot of what other guys want to do on the ground. But where Islam starts separating himself is on the feet. He's the better counter striker, straight up. He doesn't throw a lot, but when he throws, he lands. He's cleaner, he's sharper, he's more efficient with his movement. That straight left hand down the pipe, it's quick and it's accurate. He doesn't need to swing big. He just waits for you to overextend, then he punishes you. And he's faster, not just physically, but mentally. He reads patterns, he makes adjustments on the fly. Usman, on the other hand, he has good striking, solid jab, decent fundamentals, but it's mechanical. He doesn't react well when the rhythm changes or when the fades start piling up. We saw that with the Leon fight, like I mentioned earlier. When the striking gets layered, kicks, knees, stand switches, Usman gets a little bit stuck in place. So if Islam and Usman fight, I think the grappling ends up being a little bit of a stalemate. Maybe some control, here and there, maybe a couple cage, exchanges, but the striking is where Islam is pulling away. Faster hands, better timing, clean counters, and way more to score without taking damage over the 5 rounds that add up. I think Usman makes it competitive. I think he tests Islam's physicality and most lightweights never could. But in terms of pure technique, precision, and adaptability, That's all Islam in my opinion. And here's another layer to this. The pace. Usman has always been that guy who sets the tempo, the pressure heavy style where he walks you down, he clinches, makes you fight in the phone booth. But Islam, he doesn't fight on your terms. He's not rushing anything. He slows the fight down, makes you second guess everything, and then explodes at the right moment. That ability to control when the fight happens, when the entries come, when the scrambles start, that's huge because Usman thrives when he's first, when he's dictating. But against Islam, he might not be able to do that. He might get stuck reacting instead of leading. And don't overlook the kicks, man. Islam's kicking game is super underrated. Body kicks, calf kicks, inside low kicks, all time to disturb rhythm. He's not just throwing them from points, he's using them to set traps, create reactions, and limit your stance switches. Usman's striking is mostly jab, cross, maybe a straight to set up a level change. But Islam's adds layers, okay? He uses every limb to chip away at you round by round. That's the kind of layer striking, combined with his patience and his grappling safety net, makes him really hard to deal with over 25 minutes. You can't overwhelm him, you can't outgrit him, and even if you get him down, he's consistently working to reverse or stand. You don't get easy control time. So yeah, while Usman brings the size and the experience, Islam's just a more composed fighter at this point. Cleaner striking, smarter pace, sharper reaction. If the fight happens, I don't think it's a blowout. Usman's too good for that. But I think Islam's wins with his composure and his calculated pressure. It's one of those fights where the longer it goes, the more it favors Islam. Alright, the next one we got on the list is Kamaru Usman versus Belal Muhammad. Now this is a real grinder matchup. This ain't flashy, this ain't wild. This is a 25-minute of a pace, pressure, and fight IQ. Two guys who built their identity around discipline, durability, and breaking opponents down the hard way. And the thing is, their strength overlaps in a big way. You've got two of the best wrestlers in the division, two of the best gas tanks, and two of the best smartest game planners too. So when these two lock up, you better believe that a lot of the grappling exchanges are going to cancel out. We're not going to see Usman ragdoll Belal. We're not going to see Belal grind Usman out against the fence. These guys have both dealt with elite level wrestlers and stuffed them. So what happens? What's left? A striker matchup. And that's what makes this interesting. Usman's fresh off a dominant win over Buckley, showed that he's very much still in there, you know, somewhat in his prime. That wasn't a washed up vet out there. That was a vintage Usman. Sharp jab, forward pressure, clean timing, takedown threat, composed. He looked focused, patient, and locked in. So you can't write him off in this matchup. In fact, if it stays on the feet, he might even be the more polished striker, especially early. I mean, his jab is still stiff, his stance control is strong, and he can back Belal up with pressure alone. Don't forget, Belal isn't a dangerous striker. He's busy, but he doesn't make guys panic with his hands. Usman, on the other hand, knows how to make you respect the shots, even if it's just with feints or pressure. But where Belal starts to edge things out is in the volume, the consistency, the way he builds in his rounds. He might not throw everything that makes the crowd go wild, but he touches you consistently. Leg kick, jab, short combination. He doesn't give you a break. And what he does better than most guys is that he keeps that same energy in 5-round fights, you know? That's where this fight gets close. If Usman doesn't hurt him early or clearly control the first half of this fight, Belal will start stealing moments. Judges see the output, they see who's landing more, who's moving forward, who's scoring, and Belal, for all of his awkwardness, knows how to win rounds. It's not a fight where one dominates, you know? It's not a blowout in either way. It's going to be a tactical, high output chess match. Usman brings sharper tools, Belal brings the pace, and if Usman starts fading even slightly in the rounds, you know, like round 4 and 5, Belal is the kind of guy who would jump on that window and ride it to a decision win. So yeah, I'm not saying that Belal is the better fighter overall, but in this specific matchup, over 5 rounds, with all the tools neutralizing and the pace ramping up late, I think Belal might just edge it out. But make no mistake, if that Usman that beat Buckley shows up and keeps that same composure and pressure for all 5 rounds, it's a razor close one either way. Alright man, let's dive up to another one. Kamaru Usman versus Sean Brady. Now on paper, yeah, it looks like a grappling fight, but both of these dudes are strong as hell, built like tanks, and have a wrestling background that most guys in the division don't want to deal with. But here's the thing, I don't think we would get a grappling heavy fight. I think we'll have a striking battle yet again. And honestly, that's exactly where Usman will take over, I believe. Now, let's not pretend Brady has improved on the feet. He's clearly been working on his hands. His striking looks tighter than it did a couple years ago. His jab is quicker. His left hook has more snap, and he's more comfortable in the pocket. But here's where it gets real. He's still not on the Usman's level, in my opinion, when it comes to controlling on the feet. Usman doesn't throw, he imposes his jab. Still one of the best tools in the division. The way he sets range, the way he pressures without overextending, and subtle, but it breaks guys. And that's where I think this fight gets ugly for Brady, because if you take away his grappling, and let's be honest, I don't see Usman shooting on a guy like Brady and risking even getting wrapped up in the guillotine or something weird, like a scramble. Then what's left? You've got Sean Brady trying to win a technical striking match against a guy who's been there with Kobe Covington, Leon Edwards, Gilbert Burns, Masvidal, and beat most of them. Usman's been in wars. He's been in 5 rounds multiple times. He's been hurt, rocked, exhausted, and he still finds a way to win. But Brady, look, man, Brady, he's talented, but mentally, I don't think he's there yet. I'm not saying that he's weak. I'm saying that we've seen him look unsure when things aren't going his way. I mean, that Belal fight exposed something real. Belal walked him down and forced him into a striking match. And the second Brady couldn't wrestle, he looked uncomfortable, his volume dropped, his body language changed, and it was clear that he wasn't ready for that dogfight. Usman thrives in that dogfight, okay? That's where he's the most dangerous. So, you put Brady in there with Usman, and it's not just about who lands more, it's about who can handle the pressure, and I don't think Brady can. Usman's jab, his cage presence, and the way he cuts you off, the way he makes you carry his weight, even without a takedown, that's overwhelming. Brady might be able to hang for a couple rounds, but as soon as Usman starts walking him down, touching the body, touching the legs, snapping the jab, the mental wear starts showing. And let's talk about power, because Usman's not a one-shot knockout guy, but he does break you down. He'll land the same shot over and over until you start freezing. He doesn't give you room to breathe. And Brady, on the other hand, hasn't shown that he can take that kind of pressure and stay dangerous, He's strong early, but when that fight doesn't go his way, the confidence starts leaking out. So to me, this is just a bad matchup for Brady. He can't out-grapple Usman. He's not slick enough on the feet to outpoint him. And mentally, I don't think he's ready for a guy like Usman, who's still sharp, still hungry, and still knows how to drown people without taking risks over 3 or 5 rounds. I think Usman breaks him slowly, clinical, and I think by the end, Brady looks like a guy who just ran into something he quite wasn't ready for, Alright, now let's talk about Kamaru Usman versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. And I'll be real with you, Shavkat is a killer. We're talking about a guy with a 95% finishing rate. He only has 1 decision out of all his fights. You know how crazy that is? The dude doesn't just win, he mostly ends people. He's calculated, he's calm, he never wastes his movement, and when he strikes, it's all clean, heavy, and intentional. He's not a chaos merchant, he's a cold technician, in my opinion. Now, here's the key. Most people assume Usman can just hang in there because Shavkat is too dangerous everywhere. But let's slow down a little bit, because Garry proved something that was very real. He was able to take Shavkat down, not once but multiple times, got to good position, nearly locked in a choke. So that whole narrative that Shavkat can be wrestled with, that's already been cracked. And if Garry can do that, you're telling me that Usman, one of the best MMA wrestlers of the last decade, can't do more with that? Let's be serious. Usman's wrestling, his positional awareness, his ability to grind out rounds without having to go for a risky submission, that gives him a legit opening in this fight. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that Usman controls Shavkat the way he controls Masvidal or Tyron Woodley. He didn't even control Kobe Covington like that. In fact, Kobe stuffed most of his takedowns, reversed positions, and turned both of their fights into mostly a striking match. So no, Usman isn't some unbeatable control monster. But what he does have is fight IQ and the ability to stick to a disciplined game plan when it matters. If he uses the jabs, mixes in level changes, and walks Shavkat into the clinch, not necessarily looking to hold for long stretches, but to disturb the rhythm, that's where he can start flipping the momentum, especially if he targets the body early and gets Shavkat thinking defensively. The problem is, you can't make a mistake. Shavkat is a sniper. He'll hit you with something short and nasty, a knee up the middle, standing elbow, a stepped in right hand, and it doesn't take much. He's not looking for points, he's looking to take you out. So who wins? Honestly, I'm still leaning Shavkat over a 5-round fight, but I think he breaks through at some points. But it's not a blowout. Not if Usman shows up smart, patient, and physical. If he can do what Garry did, but better with more control and less risk, he can absolutely make this fight competitive, and he can make it gritty. And if Shavkat's not used to that kind of pressure for over 25 minutes, that's where the legend shines, in my opinion. All right, let's talk about another fight afterwards. Kamaru Usman versus Garry. And I mean, let's really talk about it because I keep seeing people brushing this one off like it's just a layup for Usman or that Gary's not even in the conversation. But nah, this is a fight that says a lot about both guys, where they are, where they're going, and what kind of pressure they can actually deal with. Now, starting with Garry, the kid has been growing. Like, say what you want about his personality or the media antics, but inside the octagon, he's developing real tools. He's not just another hype striker anymore. He's got legitimate reads on distance, he knows how to control a pace, and more importantly, he starts to show a willingness to grapple. That fight with Shavkat proved something. It proved that Garry isn't afraid to go where it's dangerous. He shot takedowns on Shavkat and he landed them. That's not some fluke or panic move. That's awareness, that's game planning, that's growth. And it wasn't like he was just laying on top of Shavkat either. He was passing guard, he was hunting for submissions, he threatened the back. That's real work. That's not something you do unless you've been in deep waters and learned from it. So we're not talking about the same Garry that fought Daniel Rodriguez or Jeff Neal. This is more of a calculated, well-rounded version. Still dangerous at range, still smooth on the outside, but now with more layers. And don't overlook this part with Garry, okay? Gary's submission threat is real now. Against Shavkat, he nearly locked in a choke. And that wasn't just some desperate squeeze. It was technical. It came off a clean transition. That matters in this fight with someone like Usman. Because if Usman shoots a takedown and lands in a compromised position, or if Garry can use a scramble to jump on something, that can change the round, or even the whole momentum of the fight. He's not just defending now. He's looking to end the fight off his back in transitions. That's a major evolution. But this is where things tilt a little bit, because now he's standing across from Kamaru Usman. And Usman, he's not giving you space. He's not letting you get in the flow space. He's in your face. He's walking you down with that hide guard, snapping that jab, and throwing the level change consistently. That Buckley fight was a reminder Usman still has his timing, the IQ, the control. He's not washed, not even close. And yeah, Garry took Shavkat down, but let's be honest, Usman's a whole different style wrestler. Gary's got those entries off reactive shots and awkward scrambles. Usman's entries are layered. He doesn't shoot just to score, he shoots to dictate the fight. He'll shoot just to make you hesitate, then pop you up with the jab, cut an angle, and drag you to the cage from there. He doesn't even need a takedown. He just makes you work. And that's where Garry might start to unravel. Because Gary's not used to that kind of grind. He's used to either being in the space or flowing through the clean grappling exchanges. He hasn't fought a guy who's gonna punish him in the ribs, in the clinch for straight 2 rounds, who's gonna hang on the arms and make him feel the weight of 25 minutes. That's where Usman separates himself. He's not the more explosive guy anymore, but he's still the guy that can take the fight away from you, little by little, clinch by clinch, round by round. Now let's talk about the striking, because yeah, Garry probably has the cleaner shot selection. He's longer, a bit slicker in the open space, and if this stays as a kickboxing for 3 rounds, he absolutely lives. But you think Usman's just gonna let that happen? You think he's just gonna let Garry bounce around? Nah, Usman still has one of the best pressure jabs in the game, still has elite timing, and when he fights with that guard up and walks you down behind it, your options shrink real fast, I'll tell you that. And here's the hard truth for Garry. Usman is the first guy who's going to challenge every part of his identity in that cage. He's not going to freeze and let Garry find his rhythm. He's not going to fall for feints and the head kick. He's going to crash in the pocket, get him to the fence, and start making him uncomfortable for the first minute. And if Garry doesn't have the answer for that, it's going to be a long night for him. Alright, let's just call it like it is, man. After going through all these matchups, here's the verdict. We just named 5 of the best welterweights in the world right now, and even though I didn't mention Leon Edwards, it's because I don't think they'll ever run it back for a 4th time, and honestly, I'm not sure Usman can even beat him at this point. As far as guys like Carlos Prates or Michael Morales, those fights probably will never happen. Prates is on a different path. Morales isn't a realistic booking in my opinion, but hypothetically, if they ever did cross path, I think Usman has enough in the gas tank to beat Morales. I just think that's a winnable fight. Maybe I'm wrong, who knows. Now, if we're talking guys that I do think Usman still beats, I think he gets past Garry, like I mentioned. He passes Sean Brady, and yeah, he beats Morales, like I said that earlier. Those guys are talented, no doubt about it, but Usman's pressure, his experience, his ability to drag a fight into deep water, that's still a nightmare matchup for a lot of these young contenders. Now, when it comes to Belal Muhammad, that one's a 50-50 in my opinion. Belal's fresh, he's rhythm, he's got insane cardio, and he has a fight IQ, but Usman's physicality and big fight experience still makes it a real problem. that's a true toss-up depending on who shows up in better form. But when we get to the Jack Della Maddalenas, the Islam Makhachev, the Shavkat Rakhmonovs, that's where the challenges get real. JDM's volume, his takedown defense, and his clean boxing are built to frustrate guys like Usman's. Islam's footwork and counter-striking is enough just to beat Usman, and Shavkat, he's different, calm, precise, dangerous in every aspect. He's the kind of guy that finishes you standing or grappling. I think all three of those guys like to get the job done against Usman. So no, I don't think Usman becomes a champion again, but don't get it twisted. He's still elite. He's still one of the toughest matchups for most of the top 10 in the division this deep. Having someone like Usman around, battle-tested, smart, dangerous, that still matters. He's not the boogeyman anymore, but he's still the guy waiting in the shadows for anyone not ready for that war.